Hi guys, and welcome back to Maltbox, the non-chill filtered whiskey blog. I'm Andy, and I'm back here today with another whiskey review, and I nearly forgot my name just then, which is awkward because I've been using it for 34 years. The whiskey that I'm going to be looking at today is an American whiskey. It is a bourbon from a distillery that I'm a big fan of. Full disclosure, bourbon isn't something that I've done too much of. I tend to concentrate on Scotch, English, world whiskies outside of America because it's not my kind of area or specialty, so to speak. I like bourbon, I really do. I love US whiskies, Canadian whiskies, I love ryes. But I tend not to focus on them. There's plenty of other, particularly in the States, some huge channels and some huge whiskey blogs out there that just do an absolutely stonking job on covering bourbon off as a category for me. And also, I'm quite limited in what I can get over here without going to US specialist retailers or paying through the nose or something. So the distillery that I mentioned that I'm a big fan of, that this whiskey is sourced from, is Wild Turkey. I'm also a bit of a fan of film, and a very good film I like to go back to sometimes is Interstellar. And one of the characters in Interstellar is played by Texas stalwart Matthew McConaughey. And this is a whiskey that has been produced by Wild Turkey in collaboration with Matthew McConaughey, who is apparently a big bourbon drinker, and also clearly likes to put his fingers in many pies. And it's this Wild Turkey Longbranch. Yeah, so Longbranch, a bit of a dual reference there. So McConaughey is basically a big college football fan and Texas football fan in general, and the Texas college football team are the Longhorns. You've also got that was disappointing, wasn't it? There's a bit of a... Wow, that cork pop is just sadness. There's also a bit of a crossover in the sense of this whiskey, and I will show you the label again in a second, but ultimately we're looking at Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey, refined with oak and Texas mesquite charcoals. Now, Texas mesquite is a particular type of tree. I believe it's from the oak genus, but I could be wrong. And effectively what they've done, and the way that I've read this online and what I've read somewhere else, is ultimately it's a bit like, Jack Daniels say, oh, it's filtered through charcoal, it's purifying, it makes it smooth and sort of all that gubbins. Effectively, that's what they're saying they've done here, except they've done it with this Texas based, insidious, whatever the word is that means that something's from somewhere, if you know what I mean. It's a very insidious, I think it is the word that I'm looking for, tree in Texas. Oh my God, I'm making a mess of this one. But yeah, we're bottled at 43%. In terms of chill filtration, not a clue. Absolutely no idea. What I didn't know is that this was imported into the UK by Campari, who are Wild Turkey's representatives over here in the UK. I did not know that Campari were based in the Shard. That's pretty cool. Anyway, moving back onto this. So it's a bit gimmicky. Let's get this out of the way. It's a bit gimmicky. It's not going to be aimed at, I certainly like to think it's not aimed at your hardcore bourbon fans, because I know particularly things like single barrel picks and that kind of gubbins over in the States is big money and, big reputational thing. It's, it's a big thing. This is obviously general market. You can get this in the UK. This costs about 35 quid. I did not pay 35 quid. This was an offer at an online retailer that wasn't Amazon for around 25 about 6 months ago, and I bought a bottle of it. And I've been trying to sort of like get through it, drink it, taste it, mix it with cocktails. I've given some to mates who are big bourbon drinkers as well, just to see what they think of it. So in the glass, let's get it covered, coated, etc. Because I made a bit of a hash of pouring that, so my glass is covered in drips. Again, pretty quick down the glass. A nice copper colour, but again, it is what it is. There's no age statement on the label. Obviously, you don't have to do that in American whiskey necessarily, but there we are. On the nose. So off the bat, what I would say, I'm a big fan of Wild Turkey 101. Like the old 8-year-old, oh my God, that used to light my fire. Not literally. although it could. It was 50%. But also the rare breed. Big fan of rare breed. Have a bottle of it. Well, had a bottle of it somewhere. It's in a box somewhere. However, this for me already smells on the nose much like their standard offering. Not the 101 at 50%. Not the rare breed. I think it's the 85. It's based on proof, isn't it? So I think it's the 85 from memory it's called. But basically the lower strength wild turkey. It's incredibly soft. There's some spice in there. And if we're talking not just heat spice, we're talking maybe some turmeric or something like that. It is, or cumin. It's sweet, more maple sweet than anything else, particularly just as I'm breathing in again through my nose. Now my nose is out the glass, very sort of like maple syrupy. It's kind of a sweet corn vibe, and obviously corn makes up a sizable part of the mash bill for bourbons. It's approachable, it's soft, it's quite safe. It's probably what I'd say. It's not particularly inspiring on the nose. It is quite safe. On the palate. Texture, not bad. Oh. Spicy hit, becomes slightly buttery, and then there's a massive woody, oaky, kind of unpleasantness, I guess I'd describe it, in the middle. That maple syrup's back towards the finish. The finish a little bit more pleasant, soft, still decent length though, but ultimately you're looking at something that's just incredibly sweet on the back. In terms of style, don't get me wrong, I appreciate, bourbon's an entirely different category to Scotch and English and whatever else. The mash bill, again, you've got corn in there. You've got malted barley, you've got rye or, wheat or whatever else it may be. And for me, I think the difficulty that I've got with this already is it's A bit too sweet, and B, the bits that aren't sweet aren't particularly pleasant. And it's difficult because I can get over sweet bourbons, I can get over unpleasant flavours as well on the flip side, but when they're combined, it's not a great whiskey, if I'm being honest. I think even Wild Turkey, I know I referenced the 85 or whatever it is, the lower strength one. For me, that's got a bit more purity to it. It's got a little bit more edge. It's got a bit more spice. It's got a bit more character. And I think what they've kind of done to this, inadvertently, because Wild Turkey Spirit is fantastic spirit. It's one of my favourite bourbons. It really is. They've kind of stripped that away. They've dumbed it down. They've basically created a Hollywood bourbon that can get sipped by the masses, which might not be any, it's not a problem. It's a good thing, if anything, that's approachable. But their normal bottling is approachable as well. And for me, it gives a better experience. And it's cheaper. It's about 15 quid cheaper than this. I mean, obviously, you've got the word small batch on the bottle. So naturally, yeah, small batch. That and expertly crafted on the bottom. That makes all the difference. Just by putting that on there. I've got to apologise. I feel like I'm ranting a bit now. Going back to it without picking it apart, I'm just going to close my eyes and just let it happen. It tastes of disappointment. I said that I bought this quite a few months ago, and I'd already touched on the fact that I've tried it in cocktails. I've given some to friends, and I'm like, and here it is, still here. You're better off buying Jack Daniels at this point. Honestly, in my opinion, you are. There's going to be a lot of people out there that disagree, and that is absolutely fine. I'm glad if you do. I just think for me, they've kind of what they've done with this is they've taken out what I love about Wild Turkey and just really dumbed it down. And this extra step that they've kind of put in, or even if it's not an extra step from the usual process, but the introduction of this very specific genome, that was the word I was looking for potentially, of tree, hasn't made a positive impact in my book. It's just it's just a bit mediocre. There's better whiskey out there for the money. Even if you steer away from bourbon, get a decent rye. You can get a good rye for the same price as this. And you don't have to look very far either. Something that will kind of engage you. Even if it's not American rye, try some Dutch rye, Millstone. Wow, fantastic stuff from the guys at Zuidam Distillery in the Netherlands. So anyway, guys, on that note, I'm going to box it off now. Thanks for watching. See you soon.